What's up, retro fans? I will never forget Resident Evil. We just have to set the stage a little bit here. The whole point of this is crazy. So you have to understand that I obviously grew up playing Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and the PlayStation had just come out, and you were really excited for anything that was coming out. Prior to this, one of the funner games that I was playing that I was enjoying was a game that was on Sega CD called Lethal Enforcers, where you actually had the pink and the blue gun, and it was an arcade game, but now on the Sega CD, and that was really fun at the time to play that. We walked into the video store, right? And of course, nowadays, you don't do this at all. There are no video stores, there are no gaming stores. But in the video store, not even Blockbuster, this was Don's Family Video, up the street from me, and my friend Bobby was sleeping over. And every weekend we went to Don's Family Video. We actually rode our bikes. I believe we rode our bikes in this instance. We rode our bikes up the street to Don's Family Video. We walked in and we looked around. We had some money to rent maybe 2 or 3 games, and we were trying to figure out what to get. And then we saw it. We saw Resident Evil on the shelf, and it had just been put out there. I think they had maybe 2 or 3 copies, but I don't remember. I feel like there was 1 or 2 copies at least, and they were in that, PlayStation original case, and we laughed at it because we didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it is. When you say it now, it doesn't really have the same, it was funny. You know what I mean? It was funny because the word resident is funny, like Resident Evil or Home Evil, that's funny. A guy with a gun on the cover looking panicked, with a gun. And there was I think there might have been a spider shadow or something was in the background. And it just looked like a ridiculously stupid game. And because it was funny, we rented it for that reason. We're like, what the hell is Resident Evil? What is this? We flipped it over. We looked at it and we just thought, let's rent this. It looks ridiculous. We had no idea what we were in for. I was 12 years old. I think I was 12 years old. My friend Bobby was 10. And we got back to the house and popped it in. And from the very opening, you're like, what the heck? And the acting is so bad and so cheesy. No! Don't go! But at the same time, it's cool because you're still kind of interested in the idea of real life actors being in a video game. It still was kind of it felt very modern or very different to see real characters shooting a movie scene in a video game, and then you become those characters. So it was cheesy when we were little. We laughed at it when we were little. It's very cheesy to go back and look at it now. It's almost uncomprehendable that this was what they did. But it was so cheesy and wacky and bad, but awesome. And then you're like, well, is the game going to be any good now that, I'm playing the game, and the whole dialogue, it's all iconic dialogue. It's iconically terrible, but it's iconic for that reason. It probably everybody's moment is that moment where the zombie is eating the guy and he turns around. That was the, dude, I'm telling you, and if you were playing this game in 1996, that shit hit the fan when that part happened. When that zombie turns and looks at you with blood on its face. Now it kind of looks like a clown or something. It looks kind of silly, but it's still scary because it's so silly. But dude, we were freaking out. We were like, oh my God. And you got to go get the gun, and then you shoot the zombie, and you're hooked. It's one of the best. It's got to be one of the best hooks ever in a video game. Just like in a song, just like in a book, in a good movie, in a good story, to be hooked, it's like, you got me. I want to see what happens next in this game. This is crazy. And all the eerie puzzles and sort of letters and words and the eeriness of the game. They did such a good job of making you feel like you were in this atmosphere, even though the original game is so pixelated looking, nowadays. And, they remade this game several times, altering it several times over the years. So much so that, like, I have friends that prefer those, and they didn't even play the original one in 1996, which is baffling to me, and I honestly think that's disgusting. But that's a story for another day. But so I will never forget walking into that video store, knowing other things we were going to rent and do, and finding that game by accident. And then that just being the game for a long time. I think sometimes I just had more fun watching my friend Bobby play it, because he's the one that beat it in front of me. I didn't even beat it myself. I watched him beat it. The way the game is set up with the ink ribbons and the saves and, the puzzles, and, I really loved that era, that time of games, of puzzle games, and I wasn't even really that good at them. I was probably pretty bad at them. But that era of, like, third-person puzzle games, everything from, Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear, the Metal Gear Solid genre, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, even Duke Nukem: A Time to Kill, I think it was that way. And I love that game. And that game had all kinds of problems and stuff. That game had issues. So much about the original Resident Evil is just so iconic, I think my favorite thing to say is Barry Burton. I think that's my favorite thing to say. Albert Wesker. And I just think that, I don't think anything ever replicated that first Resident Evil, the original one that came out. And I think it's partially because I was probably 12 years old. My friend was 10. We walked into a video store. We're like, what's this? Nothing is ever better than a surprise, and this was such a surprise game. We had so much fun playing it for so long, and we're so excited for Resident Evil 2 when it came out. We played that and all the other Resident Evils, and I think after Nemesis I kind of fell off. But that original Resident Evil, man, and certainly playing the remake. I didn't play the remakes until years and years later, and I was blown away by them. I didn't play the GameCube one until so many years later, when in fact that was the one that my wife says that, that's the one the only one she knew. So I thought that was crazy, but it looks amazing, the remake. But I mean, there's just, once you're that nostalgic about something original, you're never gonna, outdo that. But I want to live, like, if I could live somewhere, sometimes people are like, oh, where would you want to live? Where's your dream home? I think it's the original. It's so weird because it's kind of scary, but I would want to live in the original Resident Evil mansion. That's what I want to do. I want to live in that mansion forever. The original Resident Evil game. Tell me, what are your thoughts? What is the first time you played a Resident Evil game? You might be much younger than me now, and I'll tell you, man, you get old quick. 1 second you're 20, then you're 30, and then the next second when you're 40, you're like, wait a minute, I still feel like I'm 20, but I'm 40. What's going on? So that will happen to you as well. So where were you? Did you play Resident Evil 7? Like, what Resident Evil came out that you first liked? What's your favorite Resident Evil? And if you're old enough to remember something that is nostalgia for you as far as Resident Evil, let me know in the comments down below. We'd love to read about that. I hope you guys can leave some feedback. And what's the next game, movie, video, whatever? What's the next nostalgia item that I should talk about? I'm making these videos pretty short at first, but at some point later we're going to go into depth on them, like in maybe like a podcast or something like that. What do you think I should do next? Leave it in the comments down below, or just leave your experience with Resident Evil down below, and I will do another one of these really soon. But we'll do it more in depth, and we'll go into more things. But I think one other thing about Resident Evil that got me was, dude, like, I got to the point, I didn't get far in that game. Like, I am a very slow person when it comes to these type of games. Like, I was very stupid. Like, I think I don't know the exact time, but I think if you're really good at Resident Evil, like, I think you can beat the game in 2 hours. Or like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that, if you know it, like, you know exactly what you're doing. Whereas, I don't think I ever beat the game for like a week. When we first rented it, we just kept playing it. We weren't even halfway through the game. And I want to say, though, that we did beat it one day, but it took probably 4 to 5 hours, and we beat it. So either we're really dumb or we have a lot of ADD and we like spent too much time playing around everywhere. I don't know. But we did beat the game after about a week and probably played the game for like 20-something hours. But knowing now that you can just, really just in about 2 hours, just boom, 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 beat the game is kind of funny. Makes me feel kind of dumb, but it was fun. But the bees, I remember the bees. We didn't get to the bees for a long time, and that's not even, I remember the first day and then we tried playing, we switched back to Chris. I think we played as Jill most of the time, but we switched back to Chris and played the Chris version at one point. And it's just funny. That was pretty innovative too, is that you could play as the two different characters, and apparently allegedly they wanted to have 4 characters, and then they went with 2 because of things, and they were going to make the game a first person. Thank God it wasn't, because it's so much better, I think, as a third person. I think it loses a lot when it's first person. But Resident Evil, what do you guys think? Leave in the comments down below, and I will make another video. We'll see you guys next time. I gotta get the Resident Evil sound